So, we have been talking about the underrepresentation of Black women in the music industry, representing someone else's ex in your music, Drake. And now I want to ask you about the representation of mental health in the media. So recently, rapper Kanye West has announced that he's running for president, and that, plus a string of now deleted tweets, have led people to believe that he's experiencing a bipolar episode. Do you think that the media plays a responsibility in the role of the way that they represent people in the public eye who suffer from mental health? And do you think that Kanye is being honest about wanting to be the next president, or is this a publicity stunt?
Girl, you asked a lot of questions there, and to be honest, I can talk about Kanye and the situation all day. Like I'm not kidding you, so I'm just gonna answer one. Like,
did you call him Kanye?
Yeah, Kanye. Yeah, Kanye. What do you call him?
Kanye.
Girl, I'm British. Kanye.
We're all British.
No, but he was Kanye. Yeah, I think he was conning.
Look, I'm gonna call him what I call him, innit? So Kanye.
Kanye.
So I don't know if the media has a responsibility according to safeguarding someone's mental health. I don't know if I'll say that because I don't think anyone can know what someone's trigger is, like what might set them over the edge, what might be the wrong article to release. But I think there are journalistic standards in general and ethics that they should be adhering to. So for example, it should be honest and accurate. And, there should be some public interest there. Like me knowing about what socks you wear during the day, there's no public interest in that. And, it should be, if someone has previous mental health conditions and we feel like they could be having an episode, then maybe now's not the best time to be writing about them. And I think that's where the media has overstepped in terms of Kanye, because he was in a Forbes article where they interviewed him about his run for presidency, and he was just saying some madness, honestly. He was talking about he wants to run it according to Wakandan policies, like in Black Panther, and he's anti-vaccines for coronavirus. He's talking about aliens. He started rapping in the middle of the interviews. Like, this is not somebody who's well, and whoever did that interview knew that. But they knew it was going to get likes, they knew it was going to get clicks, and they went ahead with it anyway. And in that sort of circumstance, I think there is a responsibility to be like, if this person isn't well, we shouldn't be trying to put them on a platform when literally they're talking stuff that doesn't even make sense.
But you know what, guys? There's a fine line between someone who isn't well and someone who's just eccentric. And superstars, rock stars, rap stars, they are known to be extroverts and eccentric people. So to a degree, the person, writing, the journalist who took part in that interview may not have even really clocked there was a big problem. And I think part of what you said, Sophie, I definitely agree with. I don't think, the media necessarily has... The media don't know what's going to trigger someone. I think the responsibility lies with that person's friends, families, and to a degree their management as well. Because with Kanye, he's come out previously to speak about the fact he's been bipolar. Yeah. And I think that's where his family should be very careful with regards to what he's able to get access with, or access to, should I say. I don't think him running for president is that crazy, because right now Donald Trump is president. So anything can happen. Yeah, anything can happen. But I just feel with Kanye, I actually worry for him. Like, I really want it to be a publicity stunt. And I think the thing you said about, what kind of socks he's wearing isn't relevant. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where a lot of fans feel so entitled to information about their favourite artist that they want to know socks, they want to know what they're eating for breakfast. So journalists have had to adapt to this new style of, before the celebrity would be a mystery, would only know certain things. But now with social media, we see their every single move, and certain fans expect that. So I don't think the media is completely at fault in this one. I think his wife, the people that call themselves his friends, the rest of his family and his management need to step in and make sure that he is okay.
I think that's such a tough one, because I agree with some of that, but I think journalists want to know. I can't believe that anyone goes into journalism to write puff pieces about what someone's favorite food is. Like, you want to make a comment, you want to make a difference, you want to talk about relevant issues, whether that's pop culture or current affairs. But the level of the way that we have taken over celebrities' lives and trying to pose it now as actual news, These journalists know it's not news. They're doing it because it sells. Like, that's why the Daily Mail is so hot. And I think I think it's very interesting in terms of what responsibility do Kanye's family and friends have over him? Because that's something that I was thinking. First of all, I was just like, Kim, come get your man. Like, what is going on? You should not be allowing him to do this. But when she released a statement saying it is very difficult to offer help to somebody, like if he's not a threat to himself and to other people, which he isn't. He's at the moment, he's just saying some really outlandish things and making some very crazy statements. He's not a risk, so we can't do anything. We can't stop him flying. We can't take his phone. We can't stop him from setting up rallies in South Carolina for his presidential campaign. We can't do any of that. So I think it's really difficult for someone to step in. But I feel like the media, they know, I feel like we all know that Kanye is having an episode. I believe it. So they have a responsibility to not be putting him on the platform. There are other peoples to put on platforms. There's Cornel West, who's like an activist. There's D.L. Hewley, who's writing a book about racism. There's Jesse Williams, who's in Grey's Anatomy. If they wanted to profile what a black man has to say about the state of America and the best way forward, there are people. But they take...
But they don't.
What? But they
don't want to.
Who doesn't want to? The media or those people?
The mainstream media. The mainstream media.
But I don't disagree with you. That's why I'm saying I think the media, they're doing this not because they think that, fans are interested in it. They're in like, no, this is going to get us hits. People are going to click on our page.
Because they're interested.
It's both. I think I would never expect I'd never expect the media to be responsible for someone. Like, I think they should take all of these things into account, but I'd never expect them to. The low down dirty things that the media would do, like what you guys were saying for clicks, it's not a shock to me. But I also think, like, I kind of look at this from a little bit of a different angle, because I just think that, so first of all, let me just say that I don't want Kanye to be the next president, first of all.
Why?
However, no, because the next person's going to have to clean up a lot of mess, and we can't just double down on the mess just through a different lens. Like, no. So I don't want him to be president, but I think that black leadership is threatening. And the only thing more threatening than an alive black leader is a dead one. And assassinations aren't really going to work anymore, because you don't want to give the people something to riot for. You don't want to give the people a martyr. You don't want to give it to them. Yeah. You can't do that. So the fastest and the safest and the most effective way to take down a black leader is to defame them. I do not think it's a coincidence. Yeah, it's not a coincidence that every single time a black person in the public eye runs into career-ending controversy, they were just on the brink of doing something amazing for the black community. That is not a coincidence. Whether or not the controversy is true or not is a different story, but the timing of it is not a coincidence for me. So I think that the media have definitely ran with Kanye's most distracting statement, the thing that will be the most distracting to the black community, and publish that the most, when he was actually also saying a lot of other truthful things. I mean, we were literally just talking about artists not being in control, and he said, I've designed for Adidas, but I'm not going to do that again if I'm not on the board of Adidas, because that's where the real power lies. And you guys don't ever see the people. You don't ever see the faces of the people with the real power. He also mentioned about that girl. There was and I knew this already because my mum told me about this, but there was a dark-skinned girl who a couple of months before Rosa Parks actually refused her seat to a white woman, and she didn't fit the brand of the activist that they wanted. They did not make her the face, because she was young, dark-skinned, unmarried, pregnant teenager. And then they had like nice and quiet and respectable and light-skinned Rosa Parks, and they pushed that instead. And she knew Rosa Parks at the time. Like, Rosa Parks they were both in the NAACP together. They knew each other. So she knew, I can't be the face of the movement. She did this. It wasn't planned that she did it, but she did it. And she was manhandled, and all of those things happened to her. And she didn't really speak about it, because she knew that if I was the face, and people are going to be more distracted about who like the baby's father is, and why she's having a baby out of wedlock, and all of these other things. So we're not actually paying attention to the real things that he's saying, because everyone wants to focus on the most distracting statements, so that we're actually not having very, very important conversations.
And I agree with you on that, Luanda, because personally, I agree with everything you said in the sense of I feel like the media, especially with Kanye. So when this all started happening, I didn't really believe it was true. And that was because I wasn't going to check his Twitter for tweets.
Yeah.
I just kept seeing headlines pop up and things like that. And I just thought, okay, here comes the media again. They're weaponizing his mental health issues so that they could push an agenda. That was what I thought in my mind. And that's what I was having. Obviously, then I saw the tweets. And so then obviously it was a whole different thing. But I still don't think that negates. I do think that the media likes to weaponize certain things or certain truths maybe a person has come out and said with to push a different agenda. So whether Kanye, like Randall was saying, may have said some positive things, we're only going to focus on the negative statements. Now, albeit those negative statements were extremely outlandish.
Thank you.
Of course, people were going to focus on it because it was so absurd. And, you know, he was saying whether they were truths or allegations about him and Kim and their family. Yeah. It was just too much, basically. I don't think the media has a point to safeguard anyone really, because that's not really their job. However, I do think that as human beings, if I was in the media, I would think to myself, but why would I do this? Like, why would I write something so salacious against somebody that I don't know the truth in it? I think there is some journalism that has integrity and there's others that don't. And I think that's where the line needs to start being crossed, in that let's focus more on journalism that has a bit more validity versus like the blogs that are just going to tear people down, because we've seen what the effects are of negative media are onto people. Like, obviously you have to just look at Caroline Flack and what happened. That was a real thing that happened. And so the media were talking about it, but these I don't want to call out any newspapers, but these salacious headlines and things, of course, didn't contribute to what was already a very difficult time for her. But anyway, I'll sum up in what I'm saying, basically saying, I'm with Linda. I don't care if Kanye runs for president or not, because to me, it's about the same as Trump. So
I care very much about whether Kanye runs for president or not, because
I love him. I
leave her alone.
It might I don't think it's a prank. I think this is just conjecture.
He's serious.
For where he seems to be right now in his mental health, he seems serious. Like, he put his name, he's registered his name with like the Federal Electoral Committee to say that he wanted to do it. He gave in a bill to say, I am going to run. He ran a presidential rally, which is like, you have to put like $5,000 towards a rally or some event to show that you're doing. These are some of the criteria. So I think he's definitely trying to do that. And something that people have been saying is that if Kanye does this, what he could be doing is actually splitting votes. Like, people might vote for him when he has no chance of getting in. He's in too late. He isn't registered in enough states. Like, he hasn't done enough promotion. What he's saying is outlandish. So it's going to be a very specific type of person that's going to vote for him, as it was a very specific person that voted for Donald Trump.
I was going to say, Sophie, like all of those things that you literally just described Trump's campaign. You literally just described...
People who could be voting for, let's say, Biden, and I don't know enough about American politics to say who is a better fit, but anyone who is Donald Trump hopefully will help them to be in a better position. But Joe Biden, they're like, if he splits votes and takes people away from Biden, that could actually be votes that help those could actually be votes that might help him to get into the seat. So that's why it's so dangerous for Kanye to be like, I'm running, I'm going on the bill, vote, I need 20,000 signatures, because he could actually have an effect on the campaign, not by getting in the seat, but from prohibiting somebody else to get in.
Yeah, it's just like when the Green Party first started and everyone was like, it's a wasted vote. Don't vote for the Green Party. But I it's frustrating for me, because I just think like, okay, like I said earlier, I don't expect the media to hold themselves accountable for the things that they do. But at the end of the day, because Anissa, you just said about, well, okay, but what if I was working in the media? At the end of the day, if you're a human who works in the media and you have an effect and you have a job in that sector, you have a job in journalism, how many more Caroline Flacks do you want there to be before we actually see a change, until we actually start taking care of people who need it, instead of just thinking about your promotion or thinking about how many clicks this Daily Mail article is going to get? Like, how many more?
But then us as consumers need to do better as well. You can't expect these journalists all of a sudden not to want to give the consumers what they seem to be interested in. So it's us as a people too.
Because the journalists Yeah, the journalists aren't the ones making the decision. Again, like every time we talk about a topic, the person on the shop floor is not making the decisions. It's the person who we don't see behind the scenes. So the journalists who write these articles, they know what their newspaper, what their magazine wants. They're like, this is the sort of thing we do. This is the sort of thing we cover. If you want to work here, this is what you have to do. But like Linda said, it's going to go part and parcel. It's going to take the corporations and the media and us as well to say, we're not going to endorse it. We're not going to read it. We're not going to click on it, because as much as Caroline Flack had her own situation going on, like this woman was hounded to the point where it did not help. It probably was a contributor. The fact that she had to move out of her house and go into hiding because people were just at her all the time. Like, this cannot happen anymore.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And so we're hoping for Kanye and Kim that they hopefully move on into a better place, because it's not a great time right now.